one thing that was not 3 hours long, it was closer to 6 or 7, as you said, is Wolfenstein Youngblood.
Fuck, I hurt my fingers.
Wolfenstein Youngblood is the newest game in the Wolfenstein franchise from Machine Games, co-partnered on this particular game with Arcane Studios of Dishonored fame. Dishonored 2.
They love that id engine.
Death of the Outsider, and the most recent Prey. So I was excited when I had heard that there was a partnership between Machine Games because, one, I loved Machine Games' work with Wolfenstein New Order. That was the first reboot of the Wolfenstein game. Not the first reboot, but there was like another bad one. But the first one with this iteration of BJ Blazkowicz. And then they made Old Blood, which is a side story game that felt very old school Wolfenstein. And then they made Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus. And that was the one that I feel like really put their name on the map of like, hey, these people make some cool ass games. They're a little bit janky, but like the narrative highs and just the places that they go with the story in Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, is absurd. And it's so absurd that it's just like such a cool idea of what radical style like games can be and just how over the top games can and maybe should be. And so that's why I was so excited. And then you got Dishonored, the Dishonored veterans behind this. It's like you got some talented developers working with other talented developers to make something that is hopefully a moving narrative experience while also being a fun as hell shooter, co-op shooter at that, and with some interesting mechanics that I was not aware of until I started playing the game.
So on my side of the story is that I'm going to cough a lot. That I didn't play the new series of Wolfenstein games. I've read and watched videos about them. I've tried dabbling with them, but I didn't enjoy the like just the shooting mechanics that much. So I didn't feel the need to commit to them. If I was going to play them, it was going to be for the story by and large.
Right.
And I didn't. There was times where I'm like, it's on sale. I should probably just play it. Like, man, Nick's playing it. I know it's kind of good. I should just do it. I should do it. But I never did. But at E3 this last year when they announced Wolfenstein Youngblood, I'm like, fuck, this is the one I'm playing because I have a big co-op boner.
Do you really?
Nothing gets me more. I was gonna say erect, but it felt dirty.
Yeah, don't say that.
Nothing gets me more rock hard than a co-op game.
There's people trying to fall asleep to this, Joey.
Whatever. You don't know that. There's someone driving to this. At some point in time. There's someone potentially listening to this after we're dead. You ever think about that?
Not until now.
Yeah. There's a non-zero probability. Like, what if, Nick, one day we both get really famous? I don't know why, but it happens. And then people go back and they like listen to our old podcasts years and years and years from now, and then boom, untimely plane crash. People are gonna keep listening to us after we die.
True. Also, hi.
Creepy. Yeah, what was I saying? Yes. Rock hard, massive erection, co-op games. I have the fondest of memories of playing, like, Army of Two.
I do like Army of Two.
I liked playing A Way Out. I liked games that revolve around a co-op narrative. I think it's fun to be able to play, share an experience like that with your friend. Like old co-op campaigns, I think are a lot of fun. I love the co-op Portal 2 campaign.
Oh, it's very good.
So good.
We should play more co-op games then.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all about doing things the first time.
Fair.
So Wolfenstein Youngblood, co-op game by nature.
Yeah.
You play either with a robot or with a friend. It's not split screen. You got to play online. They do some cool things. The game is a little bit cheaper, and you can buy a buddy pass for your friend, so you can get like 2 copies for the price of 1, essentially.
Mm-hmm. As of right now, as of this recording, the normal edition of the game costs $29.99, and that is just for the regular version. You can play single player, or you can play online with a friend. But if you splurge on the deluxe edition, which is $10 more, $39.99, you get access to a buddy pass, and that's what we did for this playthrough. Joey bought the $40 version, and he gave me the buddy pass. And what that does is your buddy downloads the Steam demo of the game, and then when you guys both join the game at the same time, he sends me an invite to his campaign, and I can only play the game if he's playing. So it's basically the way A Way Out did it. You can play with a friend if you buy the buddy pass version, which is great. But
I think it's smart. I think it is one of the things that like, if there's a takeaway from this game, it's that this idea of pricing structure is cool.
I think it's honestly might be the most impressive thing about the game.
Oh, absolutely. So I don't know.
Wait,
I'm not. You're a writer. I'm
Right.
not really a writer. I mean, I am a writer. I have credits. You can look them up. IMDb. Thank you. But like, if this were a script, are we doing a bad job? Because we're starting with the highest of high point, and then we're going to fucking plummet.
Well, before we dive into the problems with the game, I think we set up the story a little bit. So, coming off of the end of Wolfenstein 2, basically, BJ Blazkowicz is a not World War II. He is a hero of the resistance who has successfully fought off the Nazis in America, and now the plan is to take the Nazi fighting overseas. And this game flashes forward from I believe it's the 60s, from Wolfenstein 2 to the 90s. So it's quite a big jump, or is 80s? Sorry, it's the 80s. So it's about a maybe 15 to 20 year jump into the future. And we are plummeted into the early 1980s, and we see BJ Blazkowicz much older, with his wife living on a farm, and he's raising two children, two fraternal twins, Soph and...
Yeah, you gotta learn how to shoot.
What are their names?
Jessica, Johan. Don't mess with the Zohan.
What are
Rob Schneider.
Soph and...
Rob Schneider.
Is it Soph? See, that's the problem. I don't remember any of the names because there's next to no narrative. But that being said, he kind of raises them to be badass Nazi cold-blooded killers, which is great. It's very cool. I think the daughters are very fun. But flash forward to their teen years, and BJ Blazkowicz, the dad, goes missing. And he goes missing in France. So the daughters pair up with their friend, who is the daughter of the FBI, head of the FBI from the second game, and they kind of go out on an adventure to Paris to find where their dad went.
So it's like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, except not engaging.
Yeah. And that's pretty much the extent of the story. Like, there's a couple story beats where you learn that, the Nazis have occupied different districts of Paris, and your job is to, of course, clear them out, kill as many Nazis as humanly possible. And the big narrative through line through the game is these giant computers, these Nazi supercomputers called the Brothers. And the Brothers, there's 3 of them, go throughout the game. They're all level gated. I believe the first one's level 20, and then the last 2 are 25.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. And that's the first time a Wolfenstein game has had levels in it, like the ability to level up. There is RPG progression. You see Arcane's influence on the game via this progression.
It seems like there's a lot of things that are new to Wolfenstein in this game, because if I had to distill Wolfenstein Youngblood into an idea, it's like someone took 100 popular game mechanics, put them all in a blender, put the ice crust feature on, and then poured it out. Because it's like, what do we got in Wolfenstein Youngblood? We got a co-op game. We got a Metroidvania game. We have an RPG progression-like game. We have a first-person shooter. We have a persistent game with dailies.
There's daily challenges,
weekly
challenges.
And weekly challenges. We have microtransactions.
There's gold bars for the cosmetic skins and things like that.
We have I don't know what the name for this mechanic is, but like when a particular ammo is better against a particular enemy, like the Recore mechanic. That's in Wolfenstein.
Yeah, it's basically a rock, paper, scissors for gun types. There are some enemies who are weaker to certain guns versus the others. And that's something that's completely new to Wolfenstein. And that's the thing that I think was the biggest problem for me, is that this game forced me to play slower in a way that I didn't appreciate. Because in Wolfenstein 2, the one thing that I loved about it is that it felt like an old school style PC shooter where my goal is to get from A to B and kill as many things as possible on my way to B. And for the most part, Wolfenstein 2 does a very good job at that. I think there's some beauty in the simplicity of something like the New Colossus or a New Order. But the problem that I get with this game is that I often found myself trying to float between weapons when there's really no clear indicator as to what works better against this one. Like, you have to actively kind of like squint your eyes and be like, wait, what's good against this one? That's fine. This gun isn't as effective, but I'm just going to shoot it a bit more and then it'll die. And eventually I got a weapon that was so strong I could just one-shot most hardcore bosses like in 2 or 3 shots. Like one shot for most enemies, and then the big bosses 2 or 3. So like after a while it felt like that difficulty just plummeted because I was just one-shotting everything.
There's stealth mechanics.
Oh, there's stealth mechanics, yeah, but they're like almost non-existent. That was a thing in Wolfenstein 2 as well. Again, now I'm just talking about New Colossus. Very fun game. But in New Colossus, you're rewarded for your stealth. The game rewards you for your playstyle. If you want to go guns blazing, go guns blazing. The game will reward you for that playstyle, vice versa with the stealth. This game has the ability for stealth, but it feels like you really only have that room for stealth for the first like 3 kills, and then after that, it's like, well, it doesn't really matter. And the big problem with that is because your Paris, as it stands, is a semi-open worldish area / hub.
There's open world mechanics.
There is
That's
open
right.
world mechanics.
There's so many different gameplay types.
But the problem is none of it's persistent. So you can...
I thought you were going to say fun.
Oh, it's also not very fun. You spend most of your time clearing out an area, and you could kill every Nazi in this particular district of Paris, but as soon as you enter a loading screen and then you jump back to that area you just spent a long time clearing, all the enemies are back, which I get. You want things to shoot in a first-person shooter, but it never feels like you're making a meaningful impact on the world. Like, I'd love to see a mechanic. Like, if this were a true arcane game in this instance, I would see some sort of feedback system from the world. Like, in the original Dishonored, if you kill bodies, like if you kill humans, the world tends to get a little more hostile towards you. There's more rats in the street, and those are more obstacles for you to deal with. Whereas in this game, it just never feels like anything you do has any impact. Things that I'm looking forward to in a game like, say, for example, Dying Light 2. Choices you make, areas you clear out, they have a lasting impact on the world, and it's something that you can look back on and say, I did that, and the game is behaving this way because I did it. And there's none of that in this game. It's so disappointing.
Yeah. It feels to me like there was a good core idea here that got muddied by putting too many additional layers onto it, and then ultimately just not having enough time in the oven. The game feels like there's a lot of core things about it that I'm just unhappy with. And I mean, I should say that I still had a good time playing this game.
Yeah, I look.
But it's because I had a good time playing this game with Nick or on stream and talking to y'all or being silly.
Yeah.
I didn't have a good time because I'm like, oh man, this is like such a story, or oh man, like, it wasn't Titanfall.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It wasn't Half-Life. It wasn't even fucking like World at War.
No.
It was a game. It wasn't Doom. It wasn't Dishonored. It was a game that was too half-baked for its own good. And that's really disappointing because, I wanted to have this this co-op game that I can champion. But instead it's like, oh, it's kind of fun with your friends. But ultimately, even the co-op mechanics aren't that important. I could, if Nick had to go take a shower in the middle of the game or run to go get ice cream or, I don't know, take a nap, I could have kept on playing.
It would have been fine until you had to open a keypad door or open a door to an elevator.
Yeah. Oh man, it's like
it felt so arbitrary. What was co-op like? Hey, we need something like they have to work together, right?
Yeah, like they're co-oping moving tonight mission progression by doors.
Yeah.
It's like, this feels like co-op from the early 2000s. Like this is like what was cool when co-op was new and fresh. It's like, oh man, we got to work together.
See, but even that's not true because in something like Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, the game trusted you in certain segments of the game to split you up. And I think that's the true test of a co-op game is you pair 2 people for a majority of the game, and then there are occasions where you need to split people up, and one thing that player A does will affect something that happens in the pathway of player B and vice versa. I think that's the true test of a co-op game. You saw that in Chaos Theory. Hell, you even saw that in the original Gears of War back in 2007? Like, you saw these split narratives that worked. It felt like the thing player A did mattered for player B. Whereas this game is just you are in the same space at all times, and the extent of like I need person B is I need to open a door to a loading screen.
But this game shouldn't even have loading screens. The levels aren't that big.
They're very small. It is absurd how often that you are forced to load into the games. Again, we are not game designers, so we don't understand the like what game engine they're working and things like that.
But I play enough games to know that it feels not right.
It feels like it feels budget. It feels like something that someone cut corners on. And again, this is not a criticism of the developers to any extent. This is just like
I'm sure that they're all mean people who smell bad also.
They were probably forced to make the game under less than ideal conditions and budgets, and they made something interesting, but it just didn't really feel like it belonged. I would have rather this game have been Wolfenstein Old Blood but with a co-op buddy, but instead I got this weird hodgepodge of a game that felt like a group of developers were given a game, and then when the higher-ups were like, I don't really like what you're making, I'm going to take that and give it to developers B over here. That's okay, but what about player C? It's like, oh man, no one really made anything with the amount of time we gave them. What if we just combined it all? And that's what it felt like. It felt like a weird rush, like no one got to make the game they really wanted, so instead it was like designed by committee and everyone got their piece of the game in, which felt unfortunate. And then the biggest disappointment for me was the narrative. Like, how are you going to come off the high of Wolfenstein 2 where you have BJ Blazkowicz deal with his daddy issues, you end the game with storming the Nazi capital, your pregnant wife machine guns dual wields two giant machine guns and killing a bunch of Panzerhunds, and you like broadcast to the entire world, hey Nazis, we're coming for you, drop the mic. And this just feels like such a limp-wristed handshake of a game where there's nothing meaningful that happens. The most interesting story beat in this game is the fact that it's setting up Wolfenstein 3. It's like, hey, we're going to introduce the idea of alternate dimensions. That's like a quick drop. That'll be in Wolfenstein 3. Sorry you had to play all of this game to get here, but that's the nugget we're giving you for Wolfenstein 3.
I know a lot of people, my least favorite people on the internet, can I say incels are my least favorite people on the internet? Is that like
that's fine.
That's fine.
They're usually bad people.
Usually.
If you identify as an incel, you should probably reevaluate your life.
That seems extra harsh, Nick, from you.
No, that's not. If you are defined by the fact that you have not had sex and it's only because women are terrible, it's probably something to reevaluate.
I think take Nick's stance, pull it back a little more holistically, reevaluate some things.
Most things.
Most things. It's not the... What am I talking about?
Incels.
Incels? That's my favorite. The only people I like more than incels are the alt-right. Woo! Calm down. So many people on the internet who might have incel-y, gamer-geedy tendencies were very upset about the fact that you were playing two strong young female leads.
And that's part of why this game got review bombed, because it was just like, you're playing as two women? What kind of social justice bullshit is this? And it's like, that's just a story. BJ Blazkowicz had 2 kids. They happen to be girls. That happens to real people. Like, that's fine. That's something that a story can be about. And the thing that's awesome about games is that you don't have to be that person to enjoy them. That's the beauty of stories. That's why stories exist. You can experience the life of another even when you're not that person.
But, yeah, so, I mean, it got a lot of shit, but I feel like, you know, they could have done so much more with these characters. Like, I wanted to like them. There's such a good idea there. I can't tell you their different personality traits.
Is it Soph and Jess?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't tell you their different personality traits. I think Soph is a little more mild-mannered.
Which one was Soph? Was she the dark-haired one?
The dark-haired one.
Okay.
I think she's a little more mild-mannered and a little more reserved.
No, Soph wanted to travel, but Jess wanted to write a book.
And Jess, yeah, but just in their interaction with other people, I think Soph was more taken aback or like conservative.
But if when you have a dad like BJ Blazkowicz, who's such a cool, fun, fully fleshed out character, how is he it doesn't even make sense. You've lessened BJ Blazkowicz because there's no way BJ Blazkowicz would have these flat daughters like who are just uninteresting.
Yeah, the daughters were uninteresting. They could have been really cool. And they could have oozed personality, but they didn't.
And also they underutilized BJ's wife. Like in the first 2 games, she's cool. Like she's a strong, cool, interesting character, and she's like just side dressing.
The girl's friend, the tech girl.
Yeah, the daughter of the head of the FBI.
Yeah. She was the coolest character because she's like, oh, look at this strong woman who like knows how to do stuff.
She can make stuff. She's the most interesting person in the game, but again, that's not saying very much.
Yeah, it's really not. It's disappointing to see what they didn't do with these leads. What else is disappointing? You know what's disappointing for me? For someone who cares deeply about shooting mechanics and feels. I'm like a bloodhound. Anytime there's like some shooting mechanic that feels a little wonky, I'm just gonna sniff it out because it's something that I just crave in these FPSs. The shooting in this game felt bad for a number of reasons. The first one, by and large, is the game balance.
Yeah.
Your guns don't feel like they have weight, and most enemy guns also don't feel like they have weight. So it's hard to tell. I would never really know when I was losing health.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, and it never felt like whenever I got downed, it never felt like, oh, yeah, of course I got down. I was in a battle. I was just like, oh, I guess I got down.
I think the base difficulty of the game is too easy. I think the game is probably better served to play on a harder difficulty. There's too many pickups in the world.
Too much.
There's too many pickups in the world. The perks you get for your gun and character upgrades for the RPG system are just overpowered.
Yeah, I just shoulder checked everyone until I got quad damage. It's like, why do I even need to use a gun anymore? I could just shoulder check people.
Need to use a gun. I used a shotgun for most of the game, even on enemies that weren't shotgun-able. It just feels like bullets in this game aren't projectiles. And I don't mean that like, oh, they're hit scan weapons. They're not that either. When you're using your pistol or your shotgun or even a couple other guns, bullets seem to disappear after like 20 meters.
Yep.
Like they just stop. If I'm shooting someone with my pistol through my sights, that's a ways away. Like I get it. Like I mean, I shouldn't be hitting all my shots. It's not like I'm playing, Counter-Strike or something. But the fact that just the bullets are ineffective past a certain range, like they just fall straight out of the air to the ground, is the first time and the most egregious I've ever seen that in a game. Period.
Yeah, it's really noticeable.
Yeah, it's like you feel like you should be able to hit someone. They're in your red dot. You got them there. They're standing still. You take the shot. Your first shot, which should in most shooter games, the first shot has the highest accuracy. That's how it works. That's how it works. And then your bullet just disappears. Like it doesn't hit their bias in their chest. It doesn't distract them. It's just gone because it doesn't travel far enough, which feels so weird and wonky.
It just doesn't feel like it belongs in that world.
No. Everything should feel strong in the world. Like I almost wanted to feel more like Doom. I'm wearing power suits for fuck's sake. But like my guns are just like ding ding ding.
Yeah,
ding,
they're
ding.
bouncing off people. One of the other big problems I had with the game design is these arbitrary like end of level or end of area, like, hey, you need to find this thing in order to move into the next area. It feels like someone says, hey, ride this really fun roller coaster. But like when you get 2/4 of the way, like when you get two out of 2/3 of the way there, you're gonna have to stop and look for the button to proceed to the rest of the fun stuff. And there would be these moments where Joey and I would move throughout the game. We'd be running and gunning, but like, oh well, at least it kind of scratches that Doom itch to some extent, where you're just kind of walking from A to B, but killing shit on the way there, which feels good. But then you're just like, where's that button I gotta press? Like, where's this cassette tape that I need, or where's this? And
they're not
disc?
like glowing.
Yeah, it's like you have to actively search room by room, like literally crouching, searching behind geometry.
We got stopped down for probably like 10 minutes because we couldn't find a single floppy disk in a room.
Yeah, the
which is not fun.
Pretty much the last mission, we were stuck for like 15 minutes. We're like, okay, we need a floppy disk so that we can encode it and then find the code to open this door. Okay, let's go room by room.
I mean, it was hard to find. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
It was genuinely difficult to find in a way that should not be in this game. It felt like something that should have been in King's Quest.
Especially because the rest of the game is like you're just chasing your HUD marker.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I just got to go here. I'm just going to walk in this general direction. Okay, I'm here. Okay, I got to go here now. It's like HUD chasing. And then it's like, okay, cool. I got to find a floppy disk and decode it so I can get a door. Oh, I got to find the terminal for my partner to get a door. Like, it's just annoying. Also annoying in the sense of progression is that there's just times that we had to restart the game because we got stuck.
Yeah, it's a little bit buggy in that like I would just get stuck on geometry.
Straight soft locks. Like the game would just soft lock.
And we would try like, okay, can you like throw a grenade at me and maybe that'll bounce me out? No. And so we just had to reload a game. And one time we reloaded the game, we had to start at the beginning of the level. And I think that when we did that, that was like when we subconsciously realized, okay, now we're in speedrun mode. Let's just try and get through this game as quickly as possible. I felt like it hit that switch for me, or I'm just like, I'm just going to kill everything as quickly as possible.
It's like, I got to win the game now. I guess I can just run past everything so I can go meet my dad, who didn't tell us he was leaving to go do some important fucking saving the world shit.
It just feels like something Blazkowicz wouldn't do.
Yeah. Hey, you know what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to tell my family that I'm leaving. Oh, no, my family came after me? Oh, I'm so surprised. Why did you come? Because you didn't leave a note or tell mom? Like, what the fuck is so secret? If you're all going to go try and save the world now together anyways, why can't you have been like, hey, I got to, like, you know, go do this thing?
Yeah.
It's like the whole story just stems from, like, some crazy miscommunication, which I guess you can see that about a lot of stories, but I think that's a lot of bad stories that you can see.
Yeah, and it just, like, the BJ that we know just doesn't behave this way. Like, that's not what he would do, which is just weird. It just doesn't feel right. But I feel like we have been overly critical. There is one thing I did kind of like about the game, and it was like a small pleasure that I took in it, was the like weapon customization. I kind of like that just because it felt nice to like upgrade. There's 3 different branches of like accessories for each part of a gun, and each one kind of is tailored to a specific play style. So you could, in theory, turn
more accurate or more ammo or more power.
Yeah, you could in theory turn every gun into 3 variants of a gun, and they all actually felt different.
Yeah,
which was cool.
I spent a lot of my time using a shotgun that had just the pure damage and DPS enhanced. So I would just I would shred through people. And the way, so there's a couple different, so you have your guns, which unlock, and then you have upgrades to your guns, which are based on money, currency pickups in the world, but also like level gated.
You have to
get to improve them.
Yeah.
They have the mechanic where if you match certain types of upgrades, like Nick is saying, it'll give you another bonus. There's another mechanic where if you get a number of kills with that gun, then like it'll level up too. So there's, even in a game that we've talked about being convoluted by too many mechanics, even the mechanic of guns is convoluted with a lot of mechanics, but it's the least egregious one. I think that the gun leveling system is fun and fine.
It's the one mechanic that I would want to see carried into the next Wolfenstein game, because it actually felt like it was rewarding me for my play style. Like, if I played with this gun, it knew I liked this gun, therefore it's going to make me better with this gun. And I love games that reward you for using an ability or a certain play style over and over, because it realizes, hey, this is how this person likes to play the game.
Yeah.
And that's good. That is good design. It evolves and it changes slightly, but in a way that still feels like it's a natural succession, which is fun.
It is fun. You know what's also fun? Never running out of ammo, because it's everywhere.
Yeah, ammo is everywhere. Even like the strongest gun in the game, the laser craft work that I had that I was one-shotting people with, like I would run out of ammo and it would just recharge like a few rounds every few seconds. So like I might run out of ammo. I'm like, I just killed 4 people. There's three in front of me. I'm just going to run around in circles until I get my ammo refill, shoot them, and then we're good.
It's sticky. Oh, yeah, I must be tired. Wow.
There is one mechanic in the game that I wish would have been introduced earlier. I think it kind of stems from that Half-Life 2 dilemma, where in Half-Life 2, spoilers for Half-Life 2, when you get to the like end game of Half-Life 2, the final point, you are presented with an upgraded gravity gun.
What?
Yeah. Throughout the game, you get a gravity gun that lets you pick up property like objects in the environment. But at the end of the game, you get an upgrade to that gun, like for a short period of time, that allows you to actually pick up humans and fling those at other enemies, which is very fun.
Wow.
Really? And this game does something very similar. It's called the Hand of God, and you're presented with it probably in the last 15 minutes of the game.
If that. You're presented for it so you can fight the final boss with it.
And it lets you basically pull a Titanfall Titan force grip, where you can stop incoming bullets by holding your hand out, and you collect the bullets the longer you hold your hand out. And once you've felt like you've collected enough, you can shoot them back wherever you point in a shotgun blast style flurry of bullets. and that feels good. But the problem I had with that mechanic that was nice is that there was also the ability to upgrade that to do grenade throwbacks, missile throwbacks, and like it got pretty cool. But like if you're going to introduce a mechanic so late into a game, just give us the full extent of what that ability can do. Like obviously that's not fun or that's not ideal in a game as a service where they want you to just play the game forever and do.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that mechanic is designed for someone who's going to finish the final boss and keep on playing the game, which is not us.
But there's nothing in the game that would ever compel me to go back in and do that.
The side quests in the catacombs.
But they're bad. It's
hey, can you come do this thing? Sure, I guess. Why not?
I think a lot of games can be boiled down to side quests are go to space B and hit X so that you can like satisfy some weird random thing, and then it's like, oh, you completed the objective because you pressed a button in this location. Sure, you can be reductive about a lot of games that way, but this genuinely felt that way, where maybe I didn't have to kill a Nazi leader in a particular area of Paris, but instead of shooting someone by clicking the left mouse button, I rescued someone by pressing the E button. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it just goes back to the idea that it feels like the game isn't done, or like had a lot of good ideas but couldn't properly develop, or there was like money, time, whatever resource you want to pick. But which is disappointing because there's so many things about it that I wanted to like, and there are things about it that I did like. Yeah. But it's just this was a case for me of my expectations not being met, which is always the biggest of bummers, I feel.
One thing that I just popped up in my head that I kind of enjoyed were the catacombs. There's like a mechanic in the game where I mentioned the brothers earlier, where they're like the through line bosses that you have. There's like 3 of them. You got to kill one at each part of the game. There's the ability to kind of traverse the over on Paris streets version of the game where it's a little more difficult. There's more difficult enemies. It's harder, blah, blah, blah. But you can choose to enter these optional underground catacomb sections, the sewer sections. And the sewer sections are a little like platformy. It's like pitch black. You have to actually pull out a flashlight, and you have to navigate the environment in some interesting ways that'll put you behind enemy lines and basically be a shortcut for you. I kind of like those sewer areas because it felt like a change of pace to some extent, where like everyone's fighting in darkness and you have to choose, do I want to bring out my big gun or do I want to do pistol with flashlight? And I kind of like making that choice.
Yeah, and like people thought about it. It was like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if there was like a backdoor way to get to the bosses? It's like easier but harder because you have to find them and get into the lore. Like that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's definitely like, it feels like an arcane choice, like something that you would see in a Dishonored game. But ultimately, this never achieved the high of anything that I think Machine Games has ever put out, nor has it achieved the high that anything that Arcane Studios has put out. And it just felt like just an overall miss from 2 studios and devs that I really enjoy.
I think that they have the benefit that this is going to be forgotten about and not harped on.
True. But did you know that this game is actually tied to another Wolfenstein spin-off game that gets like ham-fistedly thrown in 3/4 of the way through the game?
That's VR.
There's a part where they mention, hey, we had this cyber pilot who leveled this entire building, but the Nazis rebuilt it, so it's fine now. So you got to clear it out again. There's another Wolfenstein game that I think came out the same day as this, or it might have come out earlier, but it's called Wolfenstein Cyber Pilot, I think it is. But it's a VR game where you control like a smart mech, and you are like just taking out enemies via a VR headset, which is an interesting idea that ties into this game in an interesting way, but ultimately sounds like it matters even less than this game inevitably will.
Yeah. At least people aren't going to hark on that one because like, oh, there's female leads. I look forward to what happens with The Last of Us when you're playing as Ellie, and they're going to be like, oh, it's a girl, I hate everything. I'm on the internet and bad. Baga.
So, Joey, do we typically rate games on Garbage Game Club?
No, Nick, we've been doing this for a while.
I don't know, but I feel like we should on this one. Like,
here's my rating scale. Bad.
Yeah, don't buy it. Sorry.
I mean, I was always actually a fan of my favorite rating scale is, like kind of almost like the bypass rent thing.
Yeah, I don't even think it's worth a rent.
I think that if you're someone who likes FPS games and you hate Nazis and you want to play this game with a friend because you have time and you get it on sale for the both of you, it could be fun.
It could be a fun,
you might have a
evening.
fun co-op experience.
Don't play this game by yourself.
Yeah. Play this game as a co-op experience if that's something you're into, because you might make fun out of it. We did make fun out of it, even though we're analytically shitting on it, because I think it has a lot of flaws.
Yeah, I still
There's times that we had fun with it.
I don't regret my time spent with the game. I still enjoyed some aspect of it, but it'd be hard for me to recommend someone drop $40 on this. But we decided to, before we round things out, we actually posed the question to you guys on our Patreon. That's patreon.com/cybergarbage. You can back us for $1, $5, maybe more if you're feeling generous. And your patronage contributes to this show and makes it happen on a day-to-day basis. And we appreciate any and all support. But I put up a post last night asking, hey, does anyone have any questions after watching us play through the game? Do you have any comments? Something you'd like to say about Wolfenstein?
Photos app.
Yeah, I know. I took a photo. I forgot. And this is what you had to say. I believe we had 2 questions. And they are from... Oh, man, it's a lot of pictures of my coworker.
That's creepy.
Yeah, it is. All right. We got the first question from B. Grendel on Patreon, who asked, I pretty much played stealthy, collapsed body skill in the last Wolfenstein game and beat it on the hard mode. Is it possible to do this in the new game, or do you have to actually be good at first-person shooters? And to that, I honestly don't think that a stealth playthrough is possible in Wolfenstein Youngblood.
I think it is, but I disagree. I think it is, but I think it would be very frustrating.
I think it would be very unfun.
I don't think it would be fun. I think you would be annoyed at the amount of times you set alarms off for ways that you feel like you shouldn't have. I know Nick and I experienced that. We're like, wait, why did we set off an alarm? So I think theoretically possible, yes. Practical and fun, no.
Yeah, and I think it was way just more rewarding, and I think the game was designed for it more in Wolfenstein 2, the New Colossus. Hell, even in New Order, I think it was designed for it a little more. So there you go, B. Grendel. We also got another question from Lampoon. I think this one's a comment, not a question. Lampoon said, $30 for what seemed to be a sub 10-hour game doesn't seem to be worth it. The twins look like 2010 graphics, feels like a half-assed game. Maybe if they included the Cyberpilot storyline and mechanics, it would have been whole ass. And I don't inherently agree that a sub 10-hour story or game is worth, I think that there's often a false equivalency for time versus how much money a game costs. Sometimes people are upset that walking simulators that'll be 2 to 3 hours cost $60.
I never have that problem, for the record. I seldom think about the amount of money versus the amount of time spent. It's like I can play Apex for free forever, right? So.
And but I think in this game, because of what experience it's striving for, I do think that false equivalency is actually just an equivalency. Because if you just want to play a game that'll take you from point A to point B, killing Nazis along the way, just play Wolfenstein 2 again. I think you'll probably have more fun replaying Wolfenstein 2.
Or Splinter Cell Chaos Theory.
Or, yeah, play Splinter Cell Blacklist.
When we have the time, we should play Chaos Theory co-op.
We should do Chaos Theory and Blacklist. Blacklist is really fun.
Yeah.
You haven't played that game. That's a fun game.
You don't know me.
You haven't played it.
You don't know the first thing about me.
But, agreed. I think the inclusion of a third perspective could have been interesting. Hell, maybe even make the Cyberpilot the daughter of the head of the FBI. Introduce a mechanic where you have a third person jump in randomly. I'm a big fan of games that introduce a new mechanic for a story beat, where it's just oh, that was cool. You didn't need to do that, but that was really neat. That's something that I think is usually done well whenever it happens, but that is something that was not done well with the God Hand in this game.
What if we made a couch co-op game where you're playing the whole game couch co-op and it's really about the teamwork and communication between the two of you in person, and then suddenly the twist is that there's a third person who's introduced who becomes vital, but they're not on the couch. They're like an online player. So now you're figure out how to work with this random other person you don't know.
You have to find out how to communicate with them. I like that. Dude, let's just make a game, bro.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it is very hard.
I'm not prepared for that.
I'll make a game one day. But I think that does it for this episode of Garbage Game Club. I think we've said everything there is to say about Wolfenstein Youngblood.
Yeah.
But
And that's probably the first game that we've really taken a dump on the podcast.
Yeah. And I feel bad about it.
I don't. Fuck them.
But that said, our next game on the Garbage Game Club list is finally the Red Strings Club. This is by Destruct Team. I believe they are a Spanish developer. And it's a short game. It's about 3 to 4 hours long. I'm not going to say anything else other than check it out. I believe it's on sale right now on Steam. Joey, you're more than welcome to sign into my Steam account and play it.
I will.
And we will see you next time on Garbage Game Club, where we will be talking Red Strings Club.